Hey everybody, it's Chris from Been There Got Out. And if you're here, I'm sure you know who we are. But just in case you don't, at Been There Got Out, we offer hope, guidance, and community to people struggling or suffering in or struggling to get out of relationships with narcissists and other toxic personality types so that you can find the strength you need to get your sanity back. I am, again, my name is Chris. I'm the male half of Been There Got Out, and I'm flying solo today. Lisa is in court yet again, dealing with her ex. I haven't gotten an account from her recently, but it's got to be close to 80 court appearances just trying to have the terms of her divorce agreement enforced. And it's just been a nightmare for her. So she's literally, I think, right now in court, so virtually. So she'll be back next week. But I thought, we missed our Facebook Live last week because we were away celebrating an anniversary, traveling, and we didn't want to miss 2 weeks in a row. And I thought, I would do it and maybe answer some questions from a male perspective. So often, we'll get into this in one of the questions, but so often, different websites and different books and things are from a female perspective. And I thought it'd be interesting. We do have plenty of men that come to the site that are members that ask questions. So I thought we'd talk about that this week. So we love to hear from you. You can get us lots of different ways. We're not hard to reach. You can post on our Facebook page. Lisa maintains a very strong presence on Instagram, which is where a lot of our questions come from. I'm active on Quora. We have a contact us link right on BeenThereGotOut.com. So easy to find us. And before I end this session today, I'll take a look to see if any questions were posted and try and address those live. So without further ado, these first two questions are kind of related. So I lumped them together. And the first one was, is it rare for men to be victims of narcissistic abuse? And then the second one was, why does literature on narcissism discuss NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder, as a male disorder? So the questions are very different, and so you might wonder why I combine them. And the reason is that the answers are very similar. So first, it's far from rare for men to be victims of toxic abuse in relationships. It's unclear sort of what the percentages are, and I think the main reason for that is because it's so difficult. Most toxic personalities go undiagnosed and untreated. And I've read different estimates, but there was a really good study done in 2008. I forget the name of it, Hinton or something like that. But it's very easily findable with Google. But it was done in 2008, and it estimated that 7.7% of men and 4.8% of women would qualify for a clinical diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. The exact question or the exact percentages don't really matter. All that matters is it's a lot. There are a lot of men who are in these situations, obviously myself included, or I wouldn't be doing this. We do see a lot more women here on Been There Got Out, even more, than those percentages would suggest. And I think, there are a lot of reasons for that. And it may be that women are more willing to seek help. And I've certainly seen that with my male friends, just anecdotally, people I know who have been in these relationships who are male. But we go to a lot of different online events. We're very active in different forums, things like that, and events we host ourselves. And there are way more women there, there's no doubt about that. So when someone asks a question, it's often about a male abuser. And when a speaker is addressing someone verbally and writing, books or websites, whatever it is, blogs, they'll use, he and him. And it just sort of contributes to this overall perception that narcissism is a predominantly male issue, but it's definitely not. So that sort of made me want to add in here. So why don't men speak up more? And I think that's changing, which is a good thing. But the main reason is probably cultural. Men are stereotypically expected to be strong and stoic, while women are encouraged to express their feelings. And being a victim of abuse, really any kind of abuse, can generate feelings of shame. And this can be hard for men to face. Obviously not just for men to face, but I think probably more so for men because of those cultural expectations. So as a man who was raised by as an only child by a single mother, my parents split up when I was 12, and my dad kind of, was not really in the picture after that. I think I tend to have more traits that would stereotypically be considered feminine, including a willingness to be introspective and discuss difficult feelings, which is probably why I'm so comfortable talking about my own abusive relationship and putting myself out there as the male half of Been There, Got Out. But at least for now, I think I'm a bit unusual for men overall. And certainly that's been our experience since we started Been There, Got Out a few years ago. So, but for whatever the reasons for this perception, Lisa and I try to always be gender neutral, and I think that's one of the things that differentiates us from others supporting those in toxic relationships. So, the second question, and I believe this one came from Quara, is how does the legal system's bias against men work against male victims of narcissistic abuse? So, the first thing that comes to mind is that's a bit of a loaded question to say that, the legal system's bias against men. So I don't know that there's an overall bias against men in the legal system, just across the board. I do think that there are a ton of biases throughout the legal system. Something that's been all over the news in different ways here in the U.S. in recent years, but it's not just one way. We know plenty of women who have experienced bias in the legal system. So it does cut both ways. So, but where we've really seen the legal system slam men who are, and when I say the legal system, we're talking about, divorce, custody battles, things like that, when you're trying to get out of a toxic relationship, or when you've been in one. And in Lisa's case, she's been divorced for years and she's still, in the legal system. So it's not just during the divorce process, but it's afterwards as well. Where we've really seen men get slammed is when false accusations of abuse are made by narcissistic women, and that kind of thing happens all the time. And I think, my situation didn't really get deeply into anything like that, but I felt it. I felt that that sort of bias. And I think it was probably pretty typical. Like I don't know if it shows on camera. I'm a big guy. I played college football. I'm 6'3", and my ex is a lot smaller. She has this innocent sort of doe-eyed look that she's got down pat. And how, I didn't try this, nor would I recommend most people trying this, but how would I ever explain to a judge, like, I was a victim of emotional abuse? It's just, if you don't understand this stuff, which almost nobody in the legal system does, they look at you like, but you're, all those biases we talked about in the first question to sort of extend culturally. Judges are people too, lawyers are people too, court referees, all those different people. So the point is that, as I said, cultural biases do extend into the courtroom in a very big way, can absolutely hurt men. And then, so the last one is pretty quick today. What male personality traits attract narcissistic women? I love this question. So, front and center, empathy. Toxic people feed on strongly empathetic people, people who want to, understand and help, people who fall for their stories of childhood neglect or abuse. That was true in my situation for sure. There are people, people who are people pleasers. You can look up, there's a term, a white knight. someone who's going to come in and, fix everyone's problems. I remember when my relationship was starting, I saw my ex as, this person, with unfulfilled potential. She had so much going for her. If only she wasn't constrained by what she had been through, childhood, neglect. She'll blossom. She'll have this wonderful life if somebody would just care for her. And I tried to be that person and fell right into it. So another one, and this is a big one, is a willingness to let the other person obliterate healthy boundaries. And so one of the big tests you can do early in a relationship is to try enforcing a boundary, even a minor one, and see how the other person reacts. I know in my own toxic relationships, and my marriage was not the only one. I also had a business partner years ago who, in hindsight being 2020, was a raging narcissist. But in those relationships, I didn't even know what boundaries were. So they didn't exist from the beginning. And a big part of my recovery over the past 7 years has been learning to establish and enforce boundaries. My business partner I haven't heard from or had any reason to be in contact with for years, but with my ex-wife, we have kids together, so there are still issues that need to be worked out. I can't go fully no contact yet, but having boundaries has been huge. I don't know where I'd be in this process if it weren't for meeting Lisa and the two of us together, sort of understanding like, oh my God, and starting to do research. This is over many years at this point. But establishing and enforcing boundaries is one of the things that helps you in your future relationships too. But certainly as you try to navigate what can be very treacherous waters with someone you can't go fully no contact with once you get out of or during the process of getting out of a toxic relationship. So then the third one, and this is the last one we'll talk about, there are a lot of traits that you might have that a narcissist, if you're a male, that, and it's true, again, like a lot of this stuff, it cuts both ways, but from a male perspective, a trait that you can have that that would be very attractive to a female narcissist is they're very drawn to trusting people. They're gonna BS you a lot. And they're going to lie to you, they're going to gaslight you, and when they sense that you're receptive to that stuff, they know that they're more likely to be successful. So, I think of it as, there's an excellent book by Malcolm Gladwell called Talking to Strangers, and he talks in that book about a concept of defaulting to truth. So if you're someone who tends to believe what people tell you, even when you have a reasonable cause to doubt them, you're kind of walking around with a bullseye on your back. So so if you can develop the skill of maybe being a little more skeptical, not walking around calling everybody a liar or anything like that, but really having good radar for when somebody might be feeding you something that isn't true, and just try not to always default to truth. Especially, when you're developing a close relationship with someone. So, without Lisa here to sort of have our gabby banter back and forth, that went a lot faster than it usually does today. But for sure, keep the questions coming. I'm going to take a quick look, as I always do it when we close, to see if we have any questions. I don't see any live, but of course, absolutely, as I said at the beginning, you know where to reach us. Get us on our Facebook page, post questions. We love to hear from you. It's a lot easier when somebody comes in and asks us something to, let that feed these sessions rather than looking around, for things that people have asked us. So we'll be back. Lisa will be back next Thursday at noon. I hope you're enjoying it. Here in the New York area, it's a beautiful spring day, and for people in toxic relationships, the weather getting better is really great because you have a better opportunity to get out of the house and enjoy some sunshine. So reach out to us, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much for joining.